Welcome to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss all things political, nationally and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and This Day Live begins now. I'd like to welcome today's panelists. Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General, Bolitech Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, and Professor Victor Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos. Gentlemen, welcome to today's edition of This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. Now, let's start with the Nigerian Civil War. It's been 50 years since the Civil War ended, and it was a terrifying and dreadful civil war fought between the government of Nigeria and the secessionist state of Biafra from 6 July 1967 to 15 January 1970. And it's now 50 years since the end of that war. Fearing the disintegration of Nigeria, the government blocked the secession with military force backed by other governments from other parts of the world that were keen to protect their own oil interests. The Nigerian army launched a three-pronged attack to subdue the Biafrans, who fought back assiduously under the leadership of Colonel Emeka Ojukwu, retired, despite being out-resourced. The rift was particularly deep between the North and the South. Both sides feared domination of one over the other, but for different reasons. For General Yakubu Gowon, the military head of state at the time, the end of the war signified the coexistence of the Nigerian state he was determined to govern. He therefore declared at the end of the war that there was no victor, no vanquished, with the motto of the 3 R's: rehabilitation, reconstruction, and reintegration. Well, let me start with you, Chike. You are...
I'm a child of that war.
You are a product of that front, the Asaba front.
I tell you something.
And a lot happened on the Asaba front.
That war.
50 years after.
That war shaped who I am today. Take it or leave it, you know. And I can tell you something. It was possibly the most terrifying thing, you know, for a child. How old was I at that time? I was about 8 or 9, you know, and the full conflagration. We were caught up in it because my parents were in Benin at that time. But obviously I was a bit too young. No, maybe, you know, hostilities broke out in 67. So really I was about 6.
That's not an old man.
Right, I was about 6. And I remember vividly the kind of human misery and suffering because obviously, you know, hindsight, and of course, I had the benefit of my father living long. You know, he was 88 years old, and we spoke, and he obviously believed, you know, in the Biafran cause. He was a major participant in it, even though he was a medical doctor, and he worked very closely with Ojukwu and all of them. But the truth is that, from the perspective of a child that I was at that time, the kind of suffering we saw as we kept on running from one town to the other, because what basically happened was that we had a scenario where, you know, you keep running, as a town falls, the federal troops were just on the oppression against, you know, the secessionist troops as it were. And we saw the kind of suffering that it's unthinkable and unimaginable. You had children who were dying of malnourishment, of kwashiorkor. We were a bit lucky because we happened to belong to the 1% of the 1%, you know, of the elites at that time. So I think, if my memory serves me right, I had a situation where my parents could get some relief from Gabon and all those places.
Red Cross and
yes,
Caritas.
so we used to have better nourishment. But my mates that I used to play on the field, play football outside with, I used to see them run after lizards. And before you know what's happening, the lizard is dead. They've opened the the stomach of the lizard, they put stones together, they set fire, and that was their best form of protein at that time. And as you were there, you see them dropping bombs, your parents are carrying you, you are running helter-skelter. It was the scariest, obviously, experience any child could have.
Chike, let me go to Professor Ariole. Professor Ariole, you are from that zone of Nigeria. Do you think that the Civil War has ended? Well, there are some people who think that since 1970, when the war ended, that Nigeria has not made much progress. Do you share that view? Do you think that Nigeria is still at war?
I agree. It's just like...
Even if not in a physical sense?
Yes, exactly. You see, everywhere you have had wars in the past, people come out of the war progressing and making good, input to humanity. But Nigerians' own seems to be regressive, and that is what people should really worry about. We have heard of Obunigwe. People did something about it, and it's a sign of progress technologically. Nigeria did not learn anything from that. We are suffering. When people suffer, they come out to become something else after the suffering. And I know that most people who suffered during Biafran time were willing to prove that beyond suffering, they can push Nigeria forward as long as the 3 R's Gowon stated come to stay. But up to today, we can't see anything, coming out of the war. We have seen wars in many places, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Germany, whether it's World War I or II, and progress has followed after the wars. But the case of Nigerian Biafran war is something that one cannot really say what really happened. And we don't seem to change our mentality to see how progress will come. I mean, I was a Morasmus child. You said Kwashoko. The next level of I was there as a child, if not for Caritas, for Red Cross, and for WCC, World Council of Churches. Many children, many Biafran children would have
you were not a child at the time.
I was a child. I was a child.
I would assume that you are older than Chico.
No, I was running around Red Cross and World Council of Churches and Caritas to get my, what they call ration. It was Monday, Wednesday, Friday ration process. So it's something, when you come out of it, you have to really think how next to progress.
I'm sorry, before you go to the other prof, you cut me short because I wanted to make a point about the follow-up question you asked, Prof. Is that has anything changed? Has the war ended? Of course not. We are exactly where we were in 1970. The same tensions you talk about, the same distrust, regional distrust is rife in the country. What will have healed this country, the golden chance we had that will have taken us to the next level, was the June 12 election. And I'm sorry, once that election was annulled, we were back to square one. And that's where we are.
Professor, let me come to you. I mean, you are a child of Nigeria. You have remained in Nigeria. You are faithful to Nigeria. These are the Biafrans.
We are the Biafrans.
What's your take? 50 years after the Civil War in Nigeria.
It's most unfortunate. Most unfortunate for many reasons. Reason one, as you rightly pointed out, the hostilities began on July 6, 1967. But the war actually started in 1962. There are 4 years of crisis, but the government of Nigeria was unable to manage the conduct, of the crisis. Then it degenerated into conflict. And that's where we come to the level of hostilities. Now, very unfortunate. The war ended on January 12, 1970. Philip Effiong, in his statement, surrendered unconditionally. And as you did remind us here, the focus of the government then, Yakubu Gowon, rehabilitation, reconstruction, reconciliation. Now, all this, we have not reconciled anything. We have not rehabilitated anything. And we have not reconstructed anything. And I can explain.
No problem.
The purpose...
that may be a negative position to take. We had Professor Tomi, Patu Tomi on this program. And he said, yes, there may be issues. but that Nigeria has made significant progress
That is one
since
school of
1970.
thought. Look, you see, what is the purpose of that war? This war we are talking about, the Biafrans look at it as a war of independence, war of survival, self-survival. From the perspective of Nigeria, it is war of national unity. The focus is different. In fact, the slogan of the war by that time was to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done.
Go on with one Nigeria.
Exactly.
Go on.
Yes, go on. That was another slang. It's not the official policy.
Federal
People call it now, go on with one Nigeria. That's at the level of the people. But the government, the slogan itself on daily basis, WNBS, to keep Nigeria one is a task
That must be done.
that must be done. Now, tell me, are we keeping Nigeria one? National unity as of today is by manu military. It's by force. It's not by democracy. It's not by election. Our election is a fortiori, you know, by violence, by rigging. So, this time, what was the complaint of the Biafrans by that time? The Biafrans are simply saying that, look, they were marginalized. They refer to the pogrom in the north by that particular time, and they're now saying that, look, if we have to be part and parcel of Nigeria, then there should be fairness and justice. There was
On Aburi we stand.
on Aburi we stand. You see, before that, the misunderstanding at the level of Odumegwu Ojukwu and Yakubu Gowon was a major factor. Don't forget. First of all, Odumegwu Ojukwu says that he was senior to Yakubu Gowon. And they are telling Yakubu Gowon that you are only senior by political appointment, but militarily you are not. This also translated to a misunderstanding at the level of General Adebayo. Okay? You will recall that when Adebayo was redeployed to the National Defense Academy, General Rotimi was appointed the governor of Western Region by that time. Now, Oluwole Rotimi. So what happened was that Rotimi now placed an advert for the sale of the aircraft, the helicopter, that it was purchased for an amount of £27,400 and being maintained at a cost of £19,000. He said it's not cost effective. He sold it. Placed an advert on it. But the same Adebayo, who was using it as a Owambe governor, as they call him, he went to Kaduna and saw the advert. He purchased that particular helicopter that Oluwole Rotimi didn't want. Oluwole Rotimi now reported him to Gowon to say, look, this was an act of indiscipline.
Anyway, the point that you have made, Prof, is that in terms of achieving the objectives of rehabilitation, reconstruction, and reconciliation, Nigeria is still very far away.
That's the fact.
From
that's the issue.
Every other thing is a matter of historical detail.
Very far away.
Details, yeah.
I only wanted to justify the fact that, look, the moment you cannot talk about a constructive, operational unity of the people. Nigerians are more divided today than before.
That's your point.
Yes.
The rest is history. We'll take a short break now on Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show, here on the Arise News channel. Still with me, I have Professor Bola Akintarenwa, Director General, Buharis Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, and Professor Victor Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos. Now, let's move on to another story, which is of considerable interest. And you are stakeholders in this matter too. To enhance security in the Southwest, governors in the zone have in Ibadan during the week flagged off the operations of the Western Nigeria Security Amotekun. They say this will complement the mainstream security agencies in the country. Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti, and Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo were present at the event. Governor Fayemi, who is also chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, said that Amotekun is not a duplication or replacement for the Nigerian police. Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu said the 6 states each procured 20 pickup vehicles and 100 units of motorcycles for the operations. And Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde said the aim is to keep the people of the Southwest safe, not fighting Nigeria, but the elements that seek to destabilize the western region of Nigeria. In reaction to the launch, the Northern Youth Council of Nigeria, NYCN, kicked against the formation of Operation Amotekun in the southwest zone of the country. National President of the NYCN, Alhaji Isa Abubakar, in a statement issued in Kaduna, urged President Muhammadu Buhari not to allow what he described as unconstitutionality to prevail. Isa says Southwest governors must desist from backing such groups as the Amotekun, adding that Amotekun is a threat to peace and national security and an attempt to jeopardize Nigeria's sovereignty. He said the Nigerian police, the Department of Secret Services, and the army shouldn't take this lightly with the governors of the Southwest. Let me start with you, Professor Akintenuwa, since you are the key stakeholder in this matter, you've been from the Southwest. Do you think that Operation Amotekun poses a threat to national security as alleged, and do you think that it's a good move by the governors of the southwestern part of Nigeria?
It clearly tells you that if others are no longer reasoning, are no longer placing emphasis on safety, protection of lives and property, at least the people of Southwest are now saying more clearly than ever before. It is a welcome development. That's clearly to tell you that where the federal government is failing, when you now factor in true federalism, which will have normally enabled any region, any group of states to seek its self-protection, that is what is actually required. I think it is quite good. It does not constitute any threat by whatever means. You see, the issue is this. The security agencies are talking about security in terms of technology only, and which is very myopic in conception, in design, in focus, in strategy. Now, the Southwestern governors have now come back to say that, look, we used to have, you know, the local technology. How do you fight thieves, robbers, traditionally? So, they are magic, they are juju, whatever they were using, their philosophy, their psychology, that ensure their safety, their security. Now they want to apply that. In this particular case, they are talking about hunters. Hunters will normally operate in the bush, dead night. So, all these herdsmen that are hiding in the bush, when the hunters are there, then the hunters will be a very good source of intelligence gathering. Now, the people who are kidnapping on the road and threatening, innocent people, they will certainly be seeing all these hunters, all these vigilantes. So I think that if anybody is saying it is a threat, we should ask them the question. For 4 years running, President Muhammadu Buhari has done his best, but his best has not been good enough to curtail, to stop, the deepening situation of insecurity. And now we are coming with a new model. Some people are now going beyond the box to say we can fight this the way they fought, the herdsmen in Ondo State, Ekiti State. All right?
Well, Professor Ariole, let me bring you into the conversation. Northern youths are saying that this is illegal. What the Southwest is trying to do is unconstitutional. But youths in the Southeast, where you come from, they are saying there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, the southeastern states are already talking about the option of Operation Ogbunigwe, right? What does this say about the efficiency, the capacity of the traditional institutions for securing lives and property? The police, the Department of State Services, the military, forces, and all of those agencies.
Well, I don't pray it turns into regional competition, because if it gets to that level, then Nigeria is in tatter, and it will be very hard to rescue Nigeria if it turns that way. Because I'm reflecting on that based on experience in Ivory Coast, where they started having Northern Security Militia, where Soro, who happens to be the former president of the Senate, is now fighting to come back again because he has a very strong hold of some militia in the north, and he wants to use it to overthrow the current president. Of course, we know. And coming to Nigeria, we have seen moral security issue when Sharia decided to be imposed on Zamfara. It's also a security issue, but in that case, it was moral security issue.
There's a police in the north
called
the Hizbah.
Okay, monitoring what goes on, moral-wise and religious-wise and whatever. And of course, today, we know that it's a failure. And there must be reason why it failed.
No, but Prof.
Yeah, there must be reason why it failed.
Your observation can be valid only to the extent that you have not differentiated the fact that Southeast, Southwest, they are not in competition.
No.
The two regions are against, kidnapping.
Yes.
Against something.
What I'm trying to say, Prof,
Southeast is only trying to take a good idea to say, look, let us also fight.
They have a problem
something in
there.
that place.
You see, people don't seem to know. We just finished discussing Biafra. I was told that one professor in Ondo State happened to be the advisor of Ojukwu to the end of the war. And it's known, professor who was against SAP or something like that. Aluko, Professor Aluko. It's read, it's known. He was the advisor of Ojukwu till the end of the war. These people haven't seen that. What I'm saying is that he had his own advice to Ojukwu. And then he also, we are now talking of Southwest, advising. Now, it's true, it's going to be an advice that Southeast also, whether IPOB or OPCO, I don't believe in them, because I was once in this Nigeria seeing OPC fighting police in Bagada. It's not very far. So I don't understand. Unless we try to say that Nigeria as a federal state has failed. And so what do? We talk of the structure, 6 geopolitical zones they are talking about. Then give all the 6 geopolitical zones their own police, their own army. Then we will agree. Let the restructure be on that point. And it will be helpful for everybody. Chike, instead of having a competition here and there.
Chike, what do you think? Because if we turn it into a geopolitical zone thing, your own zone of Nigeria, which apparently doesn't quite exist, we have issues.
Well, that was what I was thinking when you started from. Because you talked about the Southwest, which, rightfully has decided to take the destiny of their security in their hands. I mean, we were here when someone like Olufalaye was being treated like a common criminal and kidnapped and treated in that very demeaning way. I think it's a move that is even coming late, if I was to be asked rather. But the point is that that's about the Southwest. And then you also talked about the Southeast. Now, my own question, the first question I asked myself is that this always seems to be the problem with us, the Midwest, Midwest of Nigeria. Okay, before Midwest was created, we were part of the West. So why did they leave Edo and Delta out? Why are we not part of Amotekun? I asked, right? And then, even if you said, okay, we have gotten into the Midwest then the Southeast is talking about themselves. They're also not looking at, but it's fine. We go back to who we were, the Midwest. So I call on Governor Okowa, thank God these are young, dynamic governors, and Governor Obaseki, to take the fate of our region in their hands and put something in place for our own security. Because every threat, I hope you understand that is being felt security-wise in the West it is times 2 or 3 in Delta State, especially mine. From these headsmen, go to that Uyeli, Sapele area, the same kind of thing is going on. These guys just invade farmlands with their cattle and start killing the natives.
The appropriate thing in that
you know,
case,
in Benin as well.
You should join the South.
We won't join anybody. Nobody invited us. Since they did not invite us, we can stand on our own, no problem. After Midwest was the region. My uncle, the first premier, Chief Dennis Osadebe, he's there. He's up there looking at us. We'll stand on our own, there's no problem. But the point I'm making, and just to give, well, both of you are saying the same thing, is that federalism really, what kind of federalism are we practicing?
Exactly.
Because this
That's
should
the
not
problem.
be
It's
an
not
issue,
federalism.
Ruben. This is how it should be. Allah will be happy today. When
If you have a true federal system,
that is, there's only
this one is not an issue.
Between me and you, I don't even like that thing about true. There's only federalism. There's not like true federalism. It's either federalism or another system of government.
No, you see.
And we say we are practicing federalism, and these are all the tenets of federalism, where people are allowed to move at their own pace, have a weak center, decide those things, common things. Hold on, Prof. Customs, diplomatic, you know those things. They are out there in the
Exactly.
constitution. And the federal government can take that. For everything else, region, look, if it wasn't for federalism, how come Cocoa House? Look, Awolowo built the first television station in Africa.
Exactly.
Not even in Nigeria.
When people talk about
I know that these are very sensitive
There's
subjects.
nothing like true
But
federalism.
we need to take a short break
It's
now.
either federalism
Chike
or
and Prof, we need to take a short break.
sir.
We'll be right back. It's still Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show, here on the Arise News channel. Still with me, I have Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, and Professor Victor Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos. Now let's go to the United Kingdom, where Britain's Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan, the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex, on Wednesday announced that they were planning to step back as senior members of the royal family. In a statement on their Instagram page, the royal couple said they intend to work to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Queen Elizabeth II. The announcement appeared to catch the rest of the royal family by surprise, with a spokesperson for Harry's grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, issuing a short statement saying discussions with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are at an early stage. The statement explained that there are complicated issues and it will take time to work through those issues. The Queen has summoned senior royals for face-to-face talks to discuss the future roles of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Now, I'll start with you, Chike. It looks like Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, they want to eat their cake and have it. They want to be part of the royal family, but on their own terms. Yes. They want to become champions for a different phase of the monarchy in the 21st century. And of course, what they have seen is that it is very controversial. And there have been reactions from sheer racism against the Duchess of Sussex to Republicans, you know, saying, well, why not? If they want to live their lives in a particular manner, they should be allowed to do so. But what's your own thinking?
Well, it's deep. It's really deep. And I think you have to take it from the overview of a reforming royal family over the years, you know. The first thing you want to look at is that, how did they even get here? Because whether we like it or not, a black person has been introduced into the family. And I think that is where the whole thing starts getting a bit funny. I mean, if we go back to not
just a black person, an American.
Okay, fine.
Because there was one American in 1936
Great.
that caused a similar disruption,
Exactly.
Okay.
Wiley Simpson.
When we look at what happened with Dodi and the mother of Harry, you know, the late Princess Diana, and you realize how jittery the British monarchy was the minute they saw that, you know, an Arab you know, elements of that kind of thing was going to be introduced into the family. We saw what happened, that mysterious car crash, and and eventually how that woman was eliminated.
In an underground tunnel.
So if you asked me, when you're dealing with such a historical and conservative institution like the British monarchy is, maybe they will have let those young boys, you know, read what to them are the ground rules of how they should live their lives. But if you leave them and they start making these choices, and then they run into this kind of situation, that is exactly what we're saying, because you can see clearly this is a very embarrassing situation for the Queen. It is extremely embarrassing because that boy has realized that no matter what, that wife of his is not going to be accepted by the British public. Now he also takes from, you know, there's even a funny, you know how the social media and all that, they're even questioning his own exactly, in the royal family and all of that. And I'm sure they hear all these things, you know. And, you know, I think he just got to a situation where, and of course, Meghan, being a black woman who's always been used to working, and she was even more into the Hollywood, she acts, she does her own thing, and she just wants to live her life. And she's like, look, let's just get out of here, go to Canada, bring up a child like a normal child. Yes, we cannot, as far as we're concerned, yeah, you're a member of this family. We are not going to be the one to renounce that. Like you said, that's where the eating your cake and having it comes in. And of course, the family is like, no. So really, I'm still waiting to see what the real final response will be by the family, because right now you can see they are between the deep blue sea and the devil or whatever, you know?
Professor Ariole, I mean, one major element of this conversation around Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has been racism, visceral racism. As far back as 1772, Walter Bagehot, one of the most prolific intellectuals of his time, wrote a book titled Physics and Politics. And one of the things he said about race there is that, look, you can't mix people of mixed races with royalty, because, you know, people tend to have an hereditary creed. They tend to have a sense of tradition that is DNA determined. And if you just go and bring somebody of mixed race and you put them in royalty, they will certainly misbehave. And you can see that same tone from 18th century writing by Walter Bagehot. You know, you see it in the reaction of the British media. They seem to blame Meghan Markle for everything. That is this woman, a reincarnation of Wallis Simpson, you know, a black woman who does not understand tradition, who has no hereditary creed, who is disrupting the most important institution in the United Kingdom. What do you think?
No, you see, I don't really subscribe to racial issues in this case, but I subscribe to what I read in the Bible as a Christian. Don't be unequally yoked. The moment you get unequally yoked, someone must drag someone down. And that's exactly what is happening. You see?
So who is dragging who?
Well, whatever.
Harry dragging
whoever. You see, but the fact remains that they are unequally yoked. That's the situation. Whether Meghan, I see Meghan as American. And you know, in America, there is no king, there is no prince, there is no princess, there is no queen in America. So I don't even see the situation as a black and white issue. It's a situation of rebels who, you know, want to really prove that their own rebellious manners are better off than the kingship or the queenship or whatever. So Meghan Markle could be the unequally yoked side that either want to pull Harry out of the kingship or whatever. Whether we like it or not, he's even on the sixth rank. Sixth in line. So before you close 1, 2, 3, 4 and get into sixth, what is it going to happen? So the best thing is for them to see the light now and say, look, we want to live our life the way we want it. And will you make the African boy or American British boy the seventh in line of the throne? What if by accident he becomes the king?
The African boy.
The boy they had now.
Master Archie.
Yes, so it's the 17th line now. What if there is catastrophe and you make Archie the king of Britain?
Why
is
not?
it going to work?
King Archie.
It will still be unequally yoked.
You could have King
So
Archie.
what is the problem?
No,
There is
Prof,
issue, seriously.
you are sounding racist.
No, I'm not racist. Reality is what I'm putting to you. There is no American person, somebody with American blood, that would be interested in becoming a king or queen. That's what we should know. It's not black or white. Nobody that is of American blood that will accept to be a king or queen or, that we know.
Because it's not just them.
It's not them. It doesn't belong to them. They don't want to see it. They don't want to hear about it. So where are we going?
Well, I just hope that the Duchess of Sussex will not take Prince Harry to Canada, where he will become a factory worker.
They have accepted already.
That will be the ultimate disruption.
And they want to
But
make him
Prof,
governor
what do you
general.
I do not share the viewpoint of Professor Arioli. I subscribe to your own school of argument. The bitter truth in international relations is that what we are witnessing at the level of Harris and Meghan is precisely what obtains empirically in international relations. Now, when we talk about Brexit,
This one is called Megxit.
Okay, makes it now.
now you will see that the original people of the United Kingdom are trying to emphasize the British character, all right, of the people that we should call British. That's one bitter truth. So it's not just a question of the throne, etc. What is Donald Trump trying to do in America? When you talk about immigration, many countries are trying to avoid the pollution, all right, of the character of their population,
Of their people.
of their peoples.
Even the genetic makeup.
So this is the issue. That is why when we listen, when we try to pity, to put it that way, President Muhammadu Buhari, saying you are opening your frontiers, your borders, people should just come in, apply, and then people will now come and settle. Then where is the Nigerian character that we are trying to build as a foundation, right? Where is the foundation of the nation building? So when we now come back to Harris and the wife trying to go to Canada, as we have been told, I think that there are 2 or 3 issues we should underscore. Harris, Meghan,
Harry,
yeah.
Prince Harry.
Yeah. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are going not just because of they want to be out of media coverage. They talk about stronger privacy protection. That one is there. But I think there is one strategy people are not looking at that have been talked about. It is the fact that Harry now wants to strengthen the royalty, the institution, by going to Canada with the ultimate objective of possibly becoming the Governor General of the place.
Is there something in their constitution?
Yes, yes.
Is there.
Okay.
Look,
But he
you
will
see,
still report to the Queen.
Of course.
Yes,
The
but-
Governor General reports to the
but
Queen.
he declared that he wants a progressive new role.
Okay.
Progressive new role.
Okay.
Well,
That's what he said.
The Queen has
So-
called for a meeting of the farm.
Yes.
I would like to see what the outcome of that
Exactly.
meeting will be like.
Because it could have
Because-
been handled tidier, in a more tidy
Yeah,
way.
because there have
Even
been
if they had to
issues.
ease him.
There have been issues
that role.
about financial independence as claimed, and also about the new life that the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex want to carve out for themselves. But we take another short break here on Thisdaylive, this Sunday talk show. Don't go away. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back to Thisdaylive, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still with me, I have Professor Bola Akinterenwa, Director General, Buharis Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, and Professor Victor Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos. Now, let's take on another subject, our favorite subject, President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria, who is head of state and head of government. President Muhammadu Buhari has lamented the penchant for seeking medical care abroad by Nigerians. He said it underscores the loss of confidence in the hospitals and other health institutions in Nigeria. President Buhari said medical tourism will reduce if the health institutions at home were to offer quality service. Urging the hospitals and clinics to improve in their service delivery to patients, the president pointed out that Nigerians will be motivated to seek medical care in other countries where they felt they could receive better medical attention. President Buhari directed the Federal Ministry of Health and other relevant agencies to urgently formulate policies and programs for achieving sustainable development goals for national development. Well, I don't know. Professor Ariole, what do you think? President Muhammadu Buhari condemning medical tourism, considering the fact that he himself is the #1 medical tourist of Nigeria.
Well, it's very difficult to really understand the president on this issue. Being the #1 man and he has been enjoying this medical tourism, I know that in developed countries or countries who are trying to meet up in their development pattern, their presidents don't go anywhere for medical tourism. Like in Ghana, very close to us here, I don't see Ghanaian president going for any medical tourism. Even in Ivory Coast, where I grew up, I have never seen some, the highest we had was Ufe Bwani going to either Switzerland based on some factors that are beyond what. So in Nigeria, I worry. Because as I'm talking to you, nobody has known how much was spent during those medical tourism of the president. And I expect those money to be comfortable in building a standard hospital in Nigeria. Because I just came back from Morocco, where I see these Europeans going for medical tourism. That's close to Africa. Which means Morocco based...
It's not close to Africa, it's Africa.
Yes.
Morocco is Africa.
Well, sometimes the Maghrebians claim they are not. But what I'm trying to say is that it's very cheap in terms of labor. They have cheap labor in Morocco. And so investors plant hospitals that are very standard and very valuable. So the Europeans come to Morocco to spend their medical, checkup or whatever, that the medical expenses, if you will like. We expect that to happen either in Jos or Calabar. Let Nigeria develop a medical tourism site in Calabar or Jos so that we can grow our GDP. Because I'm very sure that the money spent already by the president to go to Britain and parking a whole aeroplane there waiting for him till he comes back will be enough to build a standard hospital that will take care of people.
So you have a problem with the president of Nigeria using presidential jet?
No, I'm not
Is that
worried,
a problem?
It's too expensive. Now we know that we are suffering here looking for 30,000 minimum wage, which make a debasing nature of a Nigerian person. It's not humanistic to talk of 30,000 naira basic salary and then somebody is spending a whole budget
Chike,
of a
what
nation.
exactly is the problem? Is it
It's a problem.
Public officials use public funds for medical purposes? Because there are many Nigerians, private persons, who will not stay in Nigeria to be treated for malaria, who would rather go to England. Is that okay if you go and treat malaria and headache in the UK or in Dubai? The public officials should not have access to the best medical care anywhere in the world.
The truth is simple. We live in a free society. Nigeria is supposed to be a democracy, and you're allowed to provide. It's your money. You do what you like with it. But the irony of it is that, medicine, it's my heritage. My late father was, a doctor, and then my elder sister, she's a pediatrician, top pediatrician. She has a big hospital.
Only you didn't have a head for science.
No, I didn't. I had to repeat a class trying to make a doctor of me, and when they saw, they left me alone. So the point I want to make is that we have the best. From that generation of my father, we have the best of the medical practice you can think about from Nigeria, and they're all over the world. You know, if only we could have a master plan for our medical facilities. And like he said, you know, the irony of the matter, very bittersweet irony, is that it is the president, you know, we say charity should start at home, who is the one saying this. And when I read it, I was like, it didn't make sense to me, you know. I was like, who advises this president? There are some things he should be silent about, you know, yeah. Because he, like we rightly said, is the greatest beneficiary of this. So is it a matter of say what I say or say what I do, you know? It didn't make, you know, sense to me. And, you know, like he rightfully said, we are losing a great chunk of an opportunity to build an institution, you know, medical institutions that would endure. Look, in the 60s and the 50s, I hear people from all over Africa used to come to the UCH in Ibadan, which was regarded as the center for excellence for medicine. You know, the king of my town, the Asagba of Asaba, they were the first professors in the UCH of that generation. He's still alive. He's over 90 years old now. And we had people like that from all over Nigeria, from the west, from the north, and from the south. So I think that without making ourselves a laughingstock internationally, you know, we should think this. I'm happy the president is talking about it, and I'm also happy that he's been healed considerably, you know, and he's at home a lot now. And we can put this can be one of the legacies he can leave for us within this time he has to live. Let us put together a plan and build some first-class medical facilities.
For revamping the health sector in Nigeria. But Professor Akinterewa, I come to you. You were Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. You probably enjoyed considerable medical tourism at the taxpayers' expense. But, you know, what's your reaction on this subject?
Most unfortunately, I never had the opportunity of going for any medical checkup. The only one I had was the official requirement when I was appointed that I must submit a clean record, a report, and I did the test, and I was cleared. So I never went on any medical tourism. You see, what we are witnessing, I think we should be talking about hypocrisy and objectivity. When you add hypocrisy to objectivity, they cannot but amount to objective hypocrisy. Now, what is objective hypocrisy? Mr. President should be considered as promoting hypocrisy in the sense that, as Chike and Victor alluded to, he's been a major recipient, all right, of this policy. If you factor in the cost of having to, you know, put the Nigerian aircraft in the tarmac for the whole period Mr. President was receiving treatment in the UK, you will now know that it was actually very, very costly. Without the government having to reveal, as required by the rule of transparency.
The well-being of the president is a matter of national security.
Nobody will dispute that.
And we have a duty to ensure that the president of Nigeria gets the best possible medical care
I can tell
anywhere in the world.
Look, you see, I like this type of arguments.
Very interesting.
I like this type of arguments. The life of Mr. President is important, all right? But the life of the citizen over whom he's presiding is not less important, all right? A president, as a leader, must ensure that his follower does not die before him. That is the value of a good leader. My point is that if you are talking about discouraging medical tourism, is equally good. It means now that he now wants to focus attention on the provision of what will prevent people from going abroad. Then that one can be objective. But the issue is that in the morning,
Well, Prof, we've got to go now. I know it's a very interesting subject, but we'll probably come back to it another day. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. See you next Sunday.